Hey guys, so I was getting ready for a speaking engagement that was out of town, and I got a flat tire on my wheelchair right before I needed to leave for the trip. So I thought I'd use this as a perfect opportunity to teach you something new tonight. You'll notice I have two sets of tires. This one is the one that has the flat tire. You see it's all squishy and flat. But I also have solid tires as well. And so there are disadvantages and advantages of both. But I'm also going to use this as an opportunity to show you what to do in the situation of you have a wheelchair wheel with a flat tire and it has an inner tube. I want to start out by showing you a couple of different tools. This is called a P tool. These are both tire levers, and you want to use these both at the same time, and then this one on its own. The advantage of this is that this is really helpful. It makes it a lot easier to change a tire. I'll go ahead and just buy them both. I'll put links at the end of the video for these. You also want to have a patch kit, and again I'll post the link to all of these items. The final thing you want to have that you'll need to replace a flat tire on your chair is the inner tube. This is the most important part because when you have a flat tire, you won't necessarily know why your tire is flat. Sometimes you can get away with just using the patches, but sometimes there's a tear in the tire and you'll need to replace the entire inner tube. Right now I don't know what the situation is with mine, so I have this just in case. But I have a manual tire pump right now, and I like this one because it's easy to travel with, and it also has an end that will adapt to either type of valve that you need on your wheel. So downfall is that it is manual, so it takes a little bit more effort to use it, but again, easy to travel with. So that's what we're going to use because that's what we have today. But I also have a nice electric pump that can be powered by my cigarette lighter in my car. But again, this is what I've got today, so we're going to go with that. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and just see if I'm lucky enough that maybe it just got a little low. Chances are that's probably not the case because it went flat very quickly. So chances are something punctured it or the tube got pinched in some way. And so we're going to try this first just to see. But so this is the valve, and it has a little cap here, and you want to twist that off, set it so you don't lose it. And then, but we're going to attach it to there, pull that little lever to lock it into place, and then we're just going to pump. And one thing, I can actually hear the air moving around, so I don't know if it's because the tire's filling up or if it's because it's leaking out. It sounds like it could be leaking out over here. So that's one thing you can do to figure out where the air is coming from. The other thing is there's a lot of information on the wheels on the inside. In this case, this is 23,559, which is the metric number for what tire you'll need, and there's also 25 by 1, and what 25 by 1 is that this is a 25-inch around tire, and it's 1 inch thick. So that's what those numbers mean, and you should be able to order the inner tube based off of those dimensions. The other thing to keep in mind is that there's another measurement on the wheel that says, this one says maximum recommended inflation pressure, and so this one says 110 psi. So that tells you what number to pump this up to. So you keep pumping until, in this case, it's 110 psi, which is generally what a wheelchair tire will need to be pumped up to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to see if I can get it up to 110. Something tells me it's not going to happen. Yeah, no, it's immediately blowing all the air out. So we're going to scrap that. We're going to move on to the other step. you always hope that it's going to be just a really quick fix, but sometimes it's not. And now we get to change the inner tube out. And unwind it here. I'm going to lay it aside. And now we're going to get to use the tire levers. So I'm going to go and tell you, I've actually never officially done this. So this is actually my first try of actually doing this myself. And then what I usually do is I take it to a bike shop and they can usually take care of it. The one thing about that is they might not necessarily have the correct inner tube size. So you want to go ahead and order a few. At least have a backup pair at all times. So if you do run into this issue, you could just take it up there and drop it off and they can take care of it for you. So we're going to use the tire lever though. So you're going to want to, for starters, you're going to want to take the tire lever, and you want to do it from the inside of the rim. So not the side that the push rim is on. And you want to wedge it out. And again, I've never done this before, so this is a new experience for me. But I'm going to want to take it and keep wedging it around. And one trick you can do is kind of rest the first one kind of behind your spoke, like that. Hope it doesn't go flying off like it just tried to on me. Again, I've never done this. So I'm going to take this other one and hope for the best. Did it again. Okay, so you'll notice now I've got both of these tire levers in there. And again, because it does take pretty good force to get it in there, that's why these are a little bit better to use, just so it can wedge it off a little bit easier. It takes quite a bit of effort, and so pull it out like that. So I've got it kind of, you can see what I'm doing here, kind of got it pulled out, and you keep doing it. And I actually, as I'm doing this, I feel like sliding this around is actually a little bit easier for me. I'm going to try this. Because it looks like once you get it going, if you have the hand dexterity, you can kind of use your thumbs to kind of help work it off of the rim. But again, tire lever is pretty handy. This is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. There we go, we're getting there now. About halfway off. Luckily it's only one tire that's flat, so otherwise you'll have to do this process twice. So one thing I just learned as I was doing this, I kind of squeezed the tire in just a little, and it actually helped me get the tire lever under there a little bit easier. Sorry, I'm focusing. Alright, so you'll notice now I've gotten the tire loose from the rim. Kind of reach in there with your two of your fingers if you can, and just kind of pull it out like this. So right here I am at the valve. So that's where it gets a little trickier. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish pulling this out all the way around until I get to the valve. And I'll probably use the tire lever to get it out of the way a little bit better. It's sort of working, I guess. So you'll see. Now I've got to kind of wedge it back. So, finally got it out. Took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. One thing you can do when you get it out, again, you want to attach it back onto the valve. That way, you're not having to mess with the wheel itself. And now we can figure out where there is a hole or a tear, and we're going to be able to figure out whether it needs to be patched or completely replaced with a new inner tube. And one other trick that you can do to figure it out is you can submerge it in water, and wherever you see a bubble show up is probably where the hole in the tire is going to be. So that's, and you can also actually do the same thing with a wheelchair cushion that needs air, like a Roho. And I'll show that in another video too, but it's pretty much the same type of method. It's a little bit simpler than this, but lever goes down first. I'm gonna push the lever back up once you get it on there so it stays in place. And now, oh, I can already tell you, nope, I found it. So if you can hold your hand out in front of it and figure out where it is. So that's a couple different ways you can figure it out, but I can feel the air in this case right now on my hand. So I'm going to use a patch. And yep, so there's a tiny little pinhole right here where it punctured the inner tube. So now I'm going to take one of the super patches from Super Patch Kit. You can get these patches pretty much anywhere, Walmart, Amazon, bike shops, certain probably have them too. Again, I'll post the links in the video. It actually gives you instructions on here. It says clean and lightly rough, peel off backing, press patch on tube. So, find my hole again. You're gonna wanna peel off the backing. And it looks like just a tiny little piece of tape, but it's a lot more adhesive, so you can't use just, you know, regular Scotch tape or anything like that. You're gonna wanna use the patches that are designed for patching tires because they're more durable. So I'm going to make sure you press it down really good. And it's cheaper to figure out how to do it yourself than it is to take it to a store anyway. So if you can ever have the patience to do this yourself, it's actually not as hard as I'm making it out to be. I just have never done it before, so I'm sure after you do this a couple of times you get better at it. You'll actually notice I have a couple of other patches on here from previous punctures. So to get the pump off of the tire, now we're gonna I got lucky, but you push the lever down and then you can wiggle it off, but that time it popped off. So now my inner tube is patched, hopefully. And if you notice that your tire goes flat again pretty fast, it probably means you have more than one hole in your inner tube. The other thing is if it's more than just a hole and it's more of a tear, you're probably going to just have to replace it with a whole new inner tube. I got lucky this time, it's just a pinhole. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take, to release the air so I can get it back into the tire, I'm going to use the back of the valve cover and just release all the air back out of the tube. Okay. So now I've got it deflated. Now I'm going to put it back on to the wheel. What you're going to do is you're going to find the hole, which if you look all the way around, you'll find just a hollowed out part of your rim in the metal on the inside, and that's where your valve goes in, and you'll see that there's a circle. So you actually don't even have to pull it back that far. You just need it pulled back just enough to uncover where the valve goes back in. This is where it's different. So we're not going to use the metal tire levers to get it back on because it could puncture the tube again, and we don't want that. So I'm going to put those to the side. So now that I've got the valve into the hole, now I'm just going to work the tube back into the rim, which is a little bit tricky, especially if you have problems with dexterity or you have manicures like I do. So be careful not to mess your manicure up. And the other thing you have to be mindful of about this is the fact that it could cause it could pinch the tube, which could release all the air back out of it. So you just have to be mindful, and that's why it's good to make sure you have the right inner tube size as well, because if you have tubes that are too big, then it could just bunch up inside there, and it could still, again, it could fold over and just not get aired up properly because it's not meant for that particular size of tire. So you'll see I've kind of got it started already. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking my fingers and kind of just pushing this in there. So I'm figuring out that it likes to just come back out. And this is why I pay the bike shops the big bucks to do this for me. Because this is not that easy. Yeah, and you'll notice, so I am using the tire lever just because as I'm pushing this on, the wheel is kind of natural, or the tire is naturally trying to make its way back onto the rim here. Don't pinch your fingers, but I'm just kind of pulling that back out just so I can kind of push the tube back into the tire here. But again, you also have to be careful because you don't want it to get too bunched up and potentially pinch the tube, puncture the tube again. So I've only got it about halfway around right now, but I'm kind of, hopefully it'll work, but I'm going to kind of push the tire back on as I go along with my hand, just because it does keep kind of trying to pop off. Yeah, so I'm finding it easiest to, you know, pull the tire off of the rim a little bit as I go around, because then it keeps it, it gives me more room to put my hand inside the tire so I can push the inner tube in. I almost have it. Alright, so now, finally got the inner tube inside, for the most part. So I'm going to kind of just, you can use the tire lever maybe a little bit, but I'm going to try to just get it back on with my hands as much as possible. Since I can't really use the metal tire levers once I've got the inner tube in, because again, don't want to puncture it. I'm just taking my thumbs and I'm kind of pushing up from the edge of the tire that's off of the rim right now, and just kind of like taking my hand and pushing it onto the rim this way, just so you guys know what it's actually happening over here. Alright, almost got it. And sometimes it feels like it gets a little tight the closer you get to getting the whole thing on. So as I'm getting closer to getting it onto the actual rim, now I can actually use the P-tool. And again, it's plastic, which is why you don't want to use it the whole time, because it can weaken the tool. What you're going to do is you've got this piece that's going to be on the inside of the wheel. You've got this piece that doesn't move that's going to be on the outside of the wheel, and you're going to put this part on the outer edge of the rim like that, and then you're going to push the other side in, and hopefully when you get it on there, you just kind of close it up, and I'm going to keep doing that until we get it all the way onto the rim, which is, again, it's plastic, but you want to make sure you have a good grip so it can actually help. It's kind of not working. So when it gets too close, and you can't really yeah, you'll notice this stops working once you don't really have as much to grab onto, so you want to work your way further down the wheel, or down the tire, I mean. And you might have to hold, if you're doing it like I am, just resting against my legs, yeah, you might have to figure out which method works best for you to hold it into place so you can get a good grip. But careful not to punch yourself in the face. But I think hopefully this will be the last one, and hopefully it'll, oh, there we go. Took a while, but now we have the inner tube back inside the tire, and now, and we've got the tire back onto the rim all the way. Now I'm going to use my pump, my tire pump. Remember to attach the pump onto the valve. You want to have this pushed down first and wiggle it on there, make sure you get a good seal, and then lift that back up so it kind of keeps it secure, and then use your pump. So then, again, I mentioned PSI earlier. On your valve, you'll see then there's a whole bunch of numbers on this dial right here. And so right now, because it's flat, I've just pumped it up a little bit, but it's at 10 PSI. We wanted it 110 PSI. So we're gonna keep pumping. This is a good arm workout too. And I'm getting a little bit of resistance. So I was just getting a little bit of resistance. I'm getting resistance again. It might be easier for some of you to sit it back on the floor, but if you have a hard time getting up and down, it might be better to do it like I'm doing it right now. And right now I'm only about halfway to where I need to be. A little under halfway actually. I'm at 50 PSI. We want it at 110. And actually on this one it shows you, it has a little dial with a little arrow that shows you where, what you're going for, what number you're going for, which is 110 in this case. So. Which way I'm going. Okay, so I wasn't sure just then. If you start to hear air, that could mean that you either have another hole in the tire that you weren't aware of, or it could just be, and then what happened in this case just then, pump is a little loose on the valve. So I pulled it off just to see, and it was just that the valve was loose. So. This is again the disadvantage of having a manual pump. It takes a lot more effort, but again, it works for emergency situations. But I want to kind of slide this under my feet. So even if you can't use your feet, you can pick your feet up and use the weight of your feet. To be sure you're actually getting air, you want to make sure you're pushing all the way down. I'm almost out of breath, which hopefully means this is almost pumped up, but it's still saying 50. Yeah, we want 110. That's as far as we're going to get it with a manual pump right now. So that'll get you through until you can get to a better pump. This works in an emergency. Again, I personally, at this point, think I like the other, which is an electric one that's, again, powered by your cigarette lighter. And again, I'll post links to everything in the description. This is harder than it looks, it turns out. I'm out of breath. But it can be done. I'm feeling, and no, I don't have all of the air in it, but it's definitely functioning now. So that's gonna be it for now. You want to go ahead and grab really quick your valve cover, and the air will start leaking out very, very quickly, so you want to be fast. But you take that off and screw the cap back on it, And again, I was having trouble with the manual pump, so it's pretty good, pretty solid. Again, it'll get me through until I get to a better pump. So, I know I didn't make this look easy, but again, it's real life. It happens. But I did, you know, it is possible. It is doable. It just takes a little bit more effort to use a manual pump than it does the other. And I will be getting into how to air up your Roho cushions, your air cushions for chairs pretty soon. And I've got a few other videos in mind too. Anyway, more than anything, I just wanted to show you the type of tools that you need to change a tire yourself. Again, you can go to a bike shop and they can do it for you. You just want to make sure, again, that you have the right inner tube size for it so that they can do it for you, because in my case, being 25-inch tires, it's not the most common inner tube size, the tire size. So that's just something to keep in mind. You should always have spares. And again, I'll post links to some of these tools online. So, okay, this took about an hour because I've never done it before. I had no idea what I was really doing. I mean, I've seen it done before, but I've never actually done it myself. So again, learning experience, it's life. So I will say, like I mentioned before, there are advantages and disadvantages of both. You just saw one of the disadvantages of, you know, you have a flat tire. This had a tube in it, and it had to be replaced, and so it took a while to replace it. This tire is solid, so it doesn't even need air. It doesn't have the tube. It doesn't need to be aired up at all. The disadvantage of using solid tires, sometimes they're a little bit heavier than tires that have inner tubes in them that need to be aired up. And from personal experience, I have noticed that solid tires are also really hard on your back. So if you have a lot of lower back pain, solid tires might not work as well for you. But I will generally, I like to travel on short trips with the solid tires. So I have one less thing to have to worry about with traveling. But again, if you're going to travel, you know, keep the tools on you, because you never know when you might end up having a flat tire. Anyway, hope this helps. I'm about to go to bed because I have to get up really early tomorrow to go speak here in Memphis. But yeah, I see why I pay people to do this for me now. But I did it. It's done. It's usable. And yeah, I would, again, invest in a manual pump and an electric pump, just so you have both. It's much faster to use an electric pump than to have to do it manually, and it's just easier physically. You don't have to do all the work that you have to with a manual. So anyway, y'all have a great night. I will talk to you soon, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks. Bye.